Hello everyone. Um, Today I thought I would do another video game collection video. This is actually the second time I've tried to do this video. The reason why is because a couple of days ago I had another health episode. That's why I haven't been streaming. And it's also why I'm talking low, because it seems like when I talk for an extended period of time, especially when I am talking kind of more loudly, I start to gag a lot. So I'm trying this out, seeing if this helps, just talking low. So we're gonna do like an ASMR type of situation. Um, it's also the reason I'm not in my game room, I'm in my living room, just to make myself a little bit more comfortable. I'm also dog sitting my sister's dog. His name is Gus. He might show himself in the video, but he's sitting here right next to me. Um, but this will be my PlayStation 2 game collection video, and this will probably be a long one because I have a lot of PlayStation 2 games. So the first thing I want to talk about, as always, is of course my history with the console. Now, I never had a PlayStation 2 growing up, but I did have plenty of friends who had PlayStation 2s, so I would go over and play at their house. Now, I'm pretty sure my first experience with a PlayStation 2 was at a place called Tiffany's Place, and it was kind of like the ultimate 2000s kids hangout place. They had Dance Dance Revolution machines, they had a theater room. It was just a really cool place. I don't know what happened to it. I want to say it closed probably around 2007, 2008 maybe. But I'm pretty sure my first experience with a PlayStation 2 was at Tiffany's Place. And I'm pretty sure the first game that I had played on it was a Monsters Inc. game. I could be totally wrong about that. I either played a Monsters Inc. game on the PlayStation 2 or I watched Monsters Inc. In the theater room. And honestly, I couldn't tell you which. I remember they had a they had one of those thick, like, original PlayStation 2s. All of the PlayStation 2 models I have are slim models. Unfortunately, I do not have a thick brick model, but probably my most definite memory, like early experience with the PlayStation 2 was I was sleeping over at a friend's house, and he had a PlayStation 1 and Nintendo 64. And I remember this was about the time the PlayStation 2 came out. And probably maybe like a year after, maybe 1 year after, I was sleeping over at a friend's house, and I was fairly spoiled when it came to being able to just hang out with friends all the time. Well, I was sleeping over at a friend's house, and my mom came to pick me up. And when she picked me up, um, she knew I didn't want to leave because I just, that was one of my favorite things to do, was sleep over at this friend's house. And she told me that my friend across the street, I had several friends in the neighborhood. We were all like a really close knit group of kids, which I had a really good childhood, and I'm very fortunate and very thankful for it. She said, your friend across the street just got a PlayStation 2 today, and they invited you over to come play it. And of course, I was really excited. Because at the time, the only video game console I had was an NES. So if I wanted like a modern, experience, I always went to a friend's house. It wasn't until a few years later I actually got a GameCube. I got a GameCube pretty late, but I'll tell that story when I get to my GameCube collection. But so I went over to this friend's house, and I'm pretty sure he had only one game for it, and it was ATV Off-Road Fury 2. And I'm pretty sure it is the game that came bundled with a lot of PlayStation 2s. And we played that game. He had another friend over as well, and I can't remember his name. I'm not going to say anybody's names just because, but I can't remember his name, but he was a friend. He wasn't a neighborhood friend. He was a friend from school. So it was the three of us over in his basement, the best place to play video games. The best place for a game room, honestly, is a basement. I mean, there's just something about it. We had, not in the same basement, it was another friend in the neighborhood. And I'm kind of going off track here, but every week on Friday after school, we would have pizza. We would play basketball outside in the driveway for like a couple hours, and then we would come in and we would play something like Super Monkey Ball on the GameCube, or we would play Halo custom games. It was just probably as it was really good. It was in, you talk about the good old days, and those were the good old days. But anyway, it's just like there's no better place for a game room, really, unless it's like leaking and it's not it's a bad basement. But it's a basement. There's just something about it. And I'm sure a lot of people understand what I'm talking about, but you just get an old couch, get an old TV, and just play some games down there. There's just no other experience like it. But we played ATV Off-Road Fury 2, and I just have a lot of good memories with that game. The other interesting experience, the last notable experience that I can talk about without getting into the games is, I'm pretty sure the PlayStation 2 was the first console where I heard profanity in a game, which may be a little funny because profanity has been in games before the PlayStation 2, or before at least this particular game. Keep in mind that back during, I should have prefaced this video with this first, but I feel like the PlayStation, but especially the PlayStation 2, was the first game console that really took the synonym, or not the synonym, but like you know how Kleenex, it's a brand name, but it's used to describe pretty much any tissue paper, or Coke, Coke can be used to describe any soda, but Coke is a name brand. And Nintendo was that way for video games for a long time, but I feel like the original PlayStation and the PlayStation 2 was the first console to really take that away from Nintendo. I was a kid who grew up during the 2000s. Even though I didn't, my only experience up until the Xbox 360 with video games was Nintendo. I knew Nintendo, but I didn't really know anything else. I didn't even know that the Xbox existed until Halo 2 came out. I didn't even know the Sega Dreamcast existed. But I had a GameCube. Some of the other neighbor kids had a GameCube. And some of them had a PlayStation 2. One of them had both. And but like no one had an Xbox, no one had a Dreamcast. So the other thing is that the PlayStation 2 was so wildly popular. It is the best selling console of all time. And if you grew up during the time, if you were around during the time, you knew the PlayStation. Even if you hadn't seen one or whatever, you didn't know. And I mean, everybody knew someone that had one, I'm sure. But it was, um, what was the original point I was making with that? Um, the PlayStation 2 is just such an incredible console. I think because it was so popular, it is a really easy system to collect for. The My two previous videos, the NES and the Game Boy Advance, I will have to say that I think stuff is kind of starting to go back to normal, but especially the pandemic has really inflated prices. And I think it's really hard, especially for like GameCube now is just so insane. But I think the NES is progressively getting more expensive to collect for. The GBA is one of those consoles where you have a bunch of there were a lot of games that were released for it as well, and it had support for a very long time. So it's kind of it can be cheap to collect for, but it also can be very expensive to collect for. Um, the PlayStation 2, I'll have to say probably the three easiest systems to collect for. If you want to get into video game collecting, I would say right now is not a great time to get into video game collecting. Um, I would say you might be better off waiting until the pandemic gets a little bit better. I don't know, though. We've been kind of waiting on that for 2 years, and it kind of has, but hasn't at the same time. But if you want to get into video game collecting, I would say on the top of my head, the three easiest systems to collect for, um, that I would, well, so you have the PlayStation 2. PlayStation 2 is incredibly easy to collect for. You can fill out a library very easy, very cheaply. Every console has its expensive games, but the PlayStation 2, more often than not, you can find really good games for not that much. Same thing with the Xbox. I just feel like Microsoft does such a good job with backwards compatibility and game preservation that there's not a whole lot of demand for collecting Xbox games. Now it depends on which game you're talking about, but it's you can get so many Xbox games for just so cheap. I feel like all the good games on the Xbox really sold well, like Halo or Halo 2, except now we have the Master Chief Collection, which has its issues, but for the most part, it's a pretty true port of Halo 1 and Halo 2, with as well online multiplayer. So really, unless you really want to experience like Halo 1 and its original like surround sound and CRT monitor goodness, then there's really no reason to just not play the Master Chief Collection version. But on top of PlayStation 2 and Xbox, I feel like you have the seventh generation is really easy to collect for as well, meaning the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. Those are two very easy systems to collect for. And then you have the Atari 2600. Now, the Atari 2600 is kind of a weird one because I find that a lot of stores don't carry Atari games, partly because it's not really worth the effort. Atari games just don't hold their value at all, and partly that's because most Atari games really suck. I still collect for it because I just like the history of it. Atari is kind of a weird camp of like it's very cheap to collect for, but that's if you can find places that are selling them, essentially, like that are actually putting in the effort. But this video is about the PlayStation 2. It's such a good system to collect for. It's a good sixth generation console. There's a good reason why it's the best selling console of all time. Okay, I think my original point going with that though, is that so I was saying that the PlayStation 2 was the first system I heard profanity on. But you know you hear profanity in Halo Combat Evolved, and you hear profanity in games before that. But like I said, I didn't know that the Xbox existed until Halo 2. So I believe it was either Ratchet and Clank or Jack and Daxter. It was one of those mascot platforming games. And I remember playing it at one of my neighbors' houses. It was not the one who got the PlayStation 2 with ATV, Off-Road Fury. It was another neighborhood kid that had a PlayStation 2. And I was over at his house, and I want to say it was Ratchet and Clank. It was either Ratchet and Clank or Jack and Daxter. And the bad guy is kind of like on the TV in the game, and he has this monologue, and he says a word. I can't even remember what kind of word it was. I want to say it was the D word, and they censor it, and I'm sure somebody will be able to tell me what game that was exactly. But that was the first time I had heard profanity in a video game, and I remember my eyes went really wide because I also grew up in the South, and in the southern United States, you just don't hear profanity a lot. I've lived in multiple places during my life. I find that some places a lot of people use profanity very liberally. In the South, that's not the case. Profanity is very kind of frowned upon. So, especially growing up, that was really a shock to me to hear that language. It doesn't bother me. Profanity doesn't bother me, but that was just kind of an interesting bit of information. Anyway, we're going to get on with the games. We're already pretty long into this video, so I want to get on to the games. The first letter we're going to start with is the letter A. The first game I have is All-Star Baseball 2004. This is an acclaimed sports title. I have not played it. I have a sticker I need to get off of it right here. But it's kind of... Let me open this up so I can show you the inside. Disc and manual. I'm not gonna, since this is a pretty large collection, I'm not really gonna talk too much about the games, especially ones that I have not played. So we're gonna move on with the next A titled game. This is American Idol. This is actually by Codemasters, who I believe is the same Codemasters that developed a bunch of those Camerica NES bootleg games. Unlicensed, I should say. First of all, I don't have a manual for this one. Now, when I collect PlayStation 2 games, I try to get the full deal, manual and all. Gus fell off the couch there. The reason I don't have a manual for this one is when you see that I have games that don't have manuals, that's because I basically got those games for free. Either they were bundled with a console with a PlayStation 2 console when I bought it, or it was so cheap that I'm like, well, I might as well get it, and if I see a copy somewhere else that is full in manual, then I'll just trade it. This is, I mean, it would be weird if, so American Idol is like just a massive phenomenon during the 2000s. So it makes absolute sense why there would be a PlayStation 2 game for it. Um, this game is not that good. It is a rhythm game, and back then, for rhythm games, we basically had Dance Dance Revolution. It wasn't until later that we got Guitar Hero, but back then, rhythm games were very bare bones. Today, we have games like, first of all, we have Clone Hero, but that's just Guitar Hero. But we now have Beat Saber. We have um, Geometry Dash. All of these great rhythm games that are actually interesting. And back then, rhythm games were just press button. And that's American Idol. It's just press button. Moving on, I have the game that I was just talking about in my introduction. That's ATV Off-Road Fury 2. I actually have 2 copies of this game. This is the not for resale copy. This is the game I believe that was bundled with PlayStation 2s when they were coming out. I don't have the manual for the not for resale version, but you can see that it says not for resale on the disc. Now I do have the not for resale version. Here, ATV Off-Road Fury 2. There's actually 4 ATV Off-Road Fury games, and I need to collect all 4 of them. And they're not hard to get at all, but I need to get them. Case and manual, or disc and manual, I mean. Don't let the fact that this is a racing sports game turn you off to it. This is a really good game. I have not played the other ones, so I can't say anything about them, but I've spent a lot of hours just playing in the free roam game type, game mode in this game. This game also has just such a really good early 2000 soundtrack. There's a track that's like Ninja versus Dragon or something. I know people know what I'm talking about when I say that, and it's a really good song. It's just the way that the vehicles control in this game is really good, really solid. So I would say it's definitely a game worth picking up. It's not one that's hard to come by either. It's a very even the not for resale version is easy to come by. So yeah, definitely pick this up if you can. Okay, so we're moving on with the letter C. And for the letter C, the first game I have is Cabela's, not Capella's. Capella's Big Game Hunter 2005 Adventures. All of the Cabela games that I have not played, so I'm not going to comment on them too much. Disc and manual. I will say one thing about this game. I don't really get why they put adventures. It's like such a buzzword, and it kind of... I don't like it. Because I'm pretty sure they had Big Game Hunter 2003 and 2004, and they didn't put adventures after that. So it's such a buzzword and kind of pretentious, and I don't like it. That's kind of nitpicky, though. The next C game is Cabela's Dangerous Hunts. This is the greatest hits version. I'm pretty sure that this is a first-person shooter game. I can't say much about it. I know a bit more about the DS version, and the DS version is actually a pretty, it's a pretty impressive game for the DS. Let me show you the inside of it. Case and manual. Or disc and manual, I should say. Next is Cabela's Dangerous Hunts 2. just the sequel. I do not have the manual for this one, and I'm pretty sure the disc doesn't work either. This is the only... I only have 3 games that I'm going to show off where the disc actually is needs to be repaired or replaced. This is one of those games. The good thing is that all of the games I do have where the disc doesn't work, they're all very cheap games. They're probably only worth about $1 each. So next, we are going to go over the letter D, and I only have one game for the letter D, and it's DDR Max 2. Like I said, I grew up in the 2000s, so I have a lot of history and a lot of memories playing DDR games. However, I couldn't tell you which DDR games I've played. I'd say probably the vast majority of DDR games I've played were arcade. However, I remember specifically playing the Mario version on the GameCube over at my neighbor's house, which I don't know if he still has that today, but if he does, then I would really like to buy it off of him. And I also remember that my school had some Dance Dance Revolution game for the PlayStation 2, and they actually had like stainless steel or just metal like dance pads, which I thought even today I'm like, wow, that I'm gonna have to figure out how to get my hands on those, because those must be pads that were distributed to like schools and hospitals and stuff instead of like the mats that, you know, retail versions would have. But I remember the DDR game that was at school, they would only let us do like 3 or 4 songs. But I remember like what was that one song? It was by Junior Senior or Senior Junior. It was a one hit wonder, and it was Everybody Move Your Feet and Feel United, like that song. I don't like singing, so I'm not gonna try. Pretty sure it was in Trolls or something, like one of the new Trolls movies, because I remember like around that time a lot of people started singing that song again, and I'm like, why are people suddenly remembering this song? And it was because of Trolls. So now we'll move on with the letter E. The one game I have is ESPN NFL 2K5. This is a 2K sports game, so who cares? It's a sports game. I'm pretty sure this is the second game I have that doesn't work, but I do have the manual for it. That's the only game I have for the letter E. So we'll move on with F. First game I have is Frogger, or is that Froggers? Yeah, Frogger's Adventures, The Rescue. I have not played this game. It looks, based on the back, it just looks like a 6th generation version of Frogger. But I'm not totally certain. It would be interesting if it was something kind of like Pac-Man World. There's a barcode on the manual there. I wonder what that's about. Okay, the next F game I have is Final Fantasy X. The interesting thing is that I think because the PlayStation 2 was so popular and games for it were so popular, is that a lot of the games that you would expect to be a bit more expensive are not expensive at all. Like, this is not that hard of a game to get your hands on. This is the greatest hits version. I don't even know if the greatest hits actually has that much of an impact on how valuable the game is, though, either. There's the case and manual, and I got this game from McKay's, and as you can see, I got it for like $8. So yeah, it's really not that difficult of a game to get your hands on. Now, the stickers is something I want to talk about in this video, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about it right now. If you are a video game retro store, for the love of God, stop putting your stickers on the games. Put like a sticky note on them. If you need to put a sticker on them, put a sticky note on them. Or put them inside of the case where when you peel it off, it doesn't leave residue and it doesn't damage the plastic, because stickers do absolutely damage like the plastic film on the covers. So please stop doing that. And they're probably going to be like, well, we got to make sure that nobody, changes the price tags before they bring it up to the counter. Well, first of all, game prices fluctuate all the time, so in a way you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot by putting prices on the games on the shelves to begin with, because a lot of the times you're gonna just lose money from that because the game might have devalued, and no sensible video game reseller is going to mark up the game value when somebody brings it to the counter. If you do that, then you're scummy. So just stop putting stickers on stuff, please. They're very annoying to get off. The good thing is that McKay's, their stickers are actually super easy to come off, but I put them on the inside. The reason I do that is because I have a database on my computer of my video game collection, and before I put that game in the database, I keep the sticker so I remember how much I spent on it. The next game is Final Fantasy XII. This is the last F game I have. Again, not that hard to get. Here's the case and the manual, or the disc and the manual. I need to stop saying case. I really want to get into the Final Fantasy series. The Final Fantasy games is not something that I have any experience with. I'm sure that the Super Nintendo games and the original PlayStation games are expensive. The PlayStation 2 games are not. So maybe that is a good starting point. I have no idea. Anyway, next is the letter G. The first game I have for G is Gauntlet Dark Legacy. And I only have the disc for it. Now, I have a friend that watches my channel, and this is actually his game. This is his copy that he grew up with. His sister was, after I had graduated high school with her, his sister was selling their PlayStation 2. This was like a few years after we graduated. Was selling their PlayStation 2, and I was like, hey, I'll buy your PlayStation 2. I actually bought a PlayStation 2 and a Wii from two of my classmates, but this was one game that came with it, and he has talked about this game. He kind of introduced me to Gauntlet. I never even really heard about Gauntlet until the place that we hung out at. We hung out at like this Asian restaurant. This Asian restaurant had a Gauntlet arcade machine in it. So that was like my first experience with Gauntlet. So I've heard only really one thing about this game, or two things, is that the Gauntlet series is always a really good co-op experience. And I've heard that I was watching a, like, Did You Know Gaming or whatever about the GameCube, and they mentioned this game. I don't think it was Did You Know Gaming. They were talking about how this game, graphics-wise, is really bad for the GameCube. I don't know what it's like for the PlayStation 2. Next we have God of War. God of War is... This is the 2-disc set. Oh, this is God of War 2. I'm sorry. This is God of War 2, and The second disc is actually just like Bungie Vidocs. I mean, this game isn't by Bungie, but it's basically just like behind the scenes. From what I remember, it's behind the scenes of like how the game was made. And I remember back during the Xbox 360 era, I was really into Halo 3. Halo 3 is my all-time favorite game. And I remember one of my friends from school was like, so this was a friend that basically had every console ever. I'm pretty sure he had every seventh generation console. He had a PlayStation 3, PlayStation 2, Xbox 360, and he was a really big Halo fan as well. But I remember him coming to school one day and he was saying, my dad says that God of War is better than Halo. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. Well, I don't know, maybe it is. God of War definitely has left an impact on the industry, and I don't really know the extent of that impact. Of course, being a Halo fan, I know that I know of the impact that Halo has left. It being like the first twin stick first person shooter game on console. Basically the Halo 2 being the only game that was worth playing online on consoles at all for a very long time until like Call of Duty Modern Warfare or COD 4. And so I don't really know. This is obviously a very different game from Halo. So I actually never played God of War, any of the games. Clearly it has left an impact on the industry because there's reboots of it and all sorts of stuff. But here's the God of War 1. This is greatest hits. And I have the manual and the game as well. Not played them, but I need to. The last G game I have is Gran Turismo 3. And there's a little rip in the plastic on the case in the corner, but it's just the case. Nothing else is damaged, fortunately. And I'll show you the inside of it. Now, if you're aware of Gran Turismo, you know that Gran Turismo is a simulation racing game. And on the PlayStation 1, the Gran Turismo games were broken up into two discs. One was the arcade mode and one was simulation mode. This game only has one disc. So, I know there's definitely a simulation mode for this game. But this is not for resale, by the way. I didn't know that. If you can see that, if the camera isn't too blurry. I didn't know that this was a not for resale game, but this is the Forza Motorsports of PlayStation. I think we're now up to Gran Turismo 7, and unfortunately the Gran Turismo series with the most recent entry has not been rubbing people the right way. The next letter is the letter H, and I have one game. High Rollers Casino. It is what it sounds like. I have not played it, but based on the pictures on the back, it's basically just a casino game. So, who really cares? Interestingly, it's by ZeniMax. Who would have known? Okay, so moving on with I have one game again, and it's The Incredibles. One of the best Pixar movies. Such a good, incredible, no pun intended movie. I also liked The Incredibles 2. Not a lot of people seem to really care much for The Incredibles 2, but I really enjoyed it. I did not like Finding Dory, though. That said, the only Incredibles games I've played are the ones on the Game Boy Advance. I have not had a chance to play this game yet. But yeah, really good movie. And I got the game for it. I saw that there was a game for it, and of course, PlayStation 2 games are really cheap to get, so I'm like, well, why don't I just get it? The next letter is J, and uh, I think these are going to be some of the most important PlayStation 2 games I have, because, well, they're James Bond games. You probably guessed that when I said the letter J, that I would have at least some James Bond games. The first one, I actually kind of have them out of order here. The first one is Agent Under Fire, and there's like a shiny Pokemon card type deal going on with the art. Let me open it up to show you the manual in the case and the disc. I have not played this one. There's only one of these two. I've only played two of these games. So I'll show you in a little bit. Really cool thing is that the PlayStation 2 has basically all three main James Bond actors. This is a Pierce Brosnan game. The next one is Sean Connery from Russia with Love. And let me show you the manual and the disc. It's really cool to have a Sean Connery game because really James Bond games weren't really being made until Pierce Brosnan. Pierce Brosnan was like the perfect time for James Bond games come out because Pierce Brosnan was James Bond between, I believe, 1995 and 2002. So as you can probably guess, that's when video games really started to become mainstream, and so it was just obvious for Pierce Brosnan to be the James Bond. But it's cool to see Sean Connery. I'm going to go ahead and say it now that I am not really that big of a fan of GoldenEye on the N64. I just think it's so outdated. I don't know. Well, I haven't. A lot of people are going to be angry with me if I say that. I haven't given it really that proper of a chance. I've only played co-op multiplayer like Deathmatch, and it was not good. Keep in mind, I am somebody who was broken into multiplayer, local multiplayer. Did I say co-op? I meant to say I played local multiplayer deathmatch on GoldenEye 64. I have not really played the single player, and I am somebody that was really broken into the local multiplayer first-person shooter scene by Halo, which has the best local multiplayer, hands down. Like, you can't get better than Halo. And I'm sorry, but I feel like that's kind of objective. I'm not saying that just because I'm a Halo fan, but I mean, let me say this: Halo Combat Evolved, its local multiplayer is also incredibly outdated and is not good. But you get into Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo Reach, those local multiplayers are about as good as you can get. So one other thing I want to say about Sean Connery is that I think it's fairly rare that you get anything but Pierce Brosnan James Bond games, because I believe there were only 2 or 3 Daniel Craig games, and after that, MGM just did not want to license James Bond out to game publishers anymore, probably because the Daniel Craig games were starting to get really stale and not good. So the reason I bring up GoldenEye is because I've seen some ROM hacks of GoldenEye 64 that are based on Sean Connery movies, which is really cool to see. Even though I'm not from what I have played of GoldenEye 64, I'm not a fan of it. I still love watching it. I really like watching people play it. So far, I haven't enjoyed playing it myself. So, From Russia with Love. Speaking of GoldenEye Rogue Agent. I don't know if this is a remake of GoldenEye or what. I have no idea. But it has the same name, and it's Pierce Brosnan, but he looks like Anakin Skywalker at the end of Revenge of the Sith. Um, so GoldenEye Rogue Agent. So I have not played this. No idea if it's a remake or not. I already said that. One thing about this game, this specific copy, is that you probably can't see it in video, but there's the tiniest bit of damage on the art, and that's because GameStop and their infinite wisdom put their price sticker directly on the art, on the spine. So I painstakingly had to peel that sticker off, doing as little damage as I possibly could to the art. There's just the tiniest little bit of damage, but I think I did a pretty good job. You can see it right there next to the rated T symbol, but there's also a glare from the sun. But yeah. Another reason to just not put stickers on. They damage the game, especially when you're like GameStop and you put them directly on the paper. Why they did that, I have no idea why. The next game is, from what I've played, again, I've only played 2 James Bond games on the PlayStation 2, but I feel like it's the general consensus that this is the definitive James Bond game on the PlayStation 2, and that's 007 Nightfire. Pierce Brosnan. And this was my Halo before Halo 2. This wasn't my first-person shooter game. I would say my first-person shooter game that I've ever played was Turok on the Nintendo 64. But this is the first local multiplayer. My friends in the neighborhood, the 4 of us would play split-screen multiplayer all the time. This was our Halo before we got Halo 3. There's bots, which is something that never should have been taken out of first-person shooter games, is multiplayer bots. The nice thing is that they're starting to make a comeback. But that being said, the bots in this game are really dumb. They're not very talented at all. I have not played through the single player. I've only played the multiplayer, but I've played a lot of the multiplayer. I also have this game. If you watched my Game Boy Advance video, I also have the Game Boy Advance version of this game, and it is probably the most impressive Game Boy Advance game there is. Like I said in that video, I'm hesitant to call it a good game, but it is the most impressive Game Boy Advance game on a technical level, because it is a full 3D environment first-person shooter as well. The last James Bond game and the last J game is Quantum of Solace. Now, I have a sticker here that I'm still working to try to get off. This is a Daniel Craig game. And this is definitely a late gen game. This is a 7th generation game. This is a game that came out for like the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 from what I remember, because I remember playing this game when it came out. My friend got it. Uh-oh. The sticker got on the manual because I had this sticker inside. I remember when this game came out because my friend got it, and I believe it was this game. It was one of the Daniel Craig games because I remember he brought it over. I either went over to his house or um sorry, either he came to my house and brought it over. I think he came to my house and brought it over because both of us had Xbox 360s, and I'm pretty sure he had the Xbox 360 version because we played it, and I remember thinking, wow, this game looks a lot like Call of Duty 4. And that's because it runs on that same Treyarch engine, that same Infinity Ward engine. Uh, there's a nail gun in this game, I think. Again, if it's the same game I'm thinking of. The Daniel Craig games were like the last James Bond games, and I think, like I said, MGM really stopped giving out their the license for the James Bond game or the James Bond franchise during the Daniel Craig era. Interestingly, there is a GoldenEye remake that stars Daniel Craig, and I'm gonna have to get a copy of that game. Anyway, that does it with the letter J. We are going to move on with the letter K. The first game I have for the letter K is Sony's answer to Halo, and it's Killzone. This is a sci-fi first-person shooter game that is meant to compete with Halo. The Killzone series was pretty darn popular at the time, but it never really took off the same way Halo did. It didn't have the same impact. That being said, I have not played Killzone, but I remember when it came out, it was pretty darn big at the time. And I remember watching this live action machinima on YouTube when it came out, and I think it was Killzone 2. And I remember being like, wow, that game looks really cool, but I have Halo. So Killzone. Interesting name. I really loved the name of it. The manual is upside down. So have to play this game. I don't know what Killzone. I don't know if they're still coming out with Killzone games or not, but I'm pretty sure that it kind of like ran its course. Didn't quite kill Halo, but anyway, next K game is of course Kingdom Hearts, a Kingdom Hearts game. This is Rechain of Memories. I don't know if this is Kingdom Hearts 1 or some sort of spin-off of Kingdom Hearts 1 or what it is at all. I have no experience with Kingdom Hearts, so I can't tell you exactly what this is about. Now, again, Kingdom Hearts being a pretty prevalent series on the PlayStation, you would think would be a bit more expensive, but actually I got this game for $16, so really wasn't that bad. The cool thing is that this game also comes with postcards, so I have the manual. Sorry, I'm hitting the case on my microphone. But I also have postcards. The game came with postcards. And of course, I'm not going to mail them to anybody, but that's kind of like a little Santa Claus guy, the other characters, and then people are probably like, it's not Santa Claus guy, he has a name, and his name is, but I don't know what his name is. I know he was put into Smash Bros, though. I think. Wasn't he put into Smash Bros? Like one of the last characters? I have no idea. I don't know if Kingdom Hearts is a PlayStation exclusive or not. I know like ATV Off-Road Fury is, and I know Final Fantasy became um, a PlayStation exclusive, but I don't know if Kingdom Hearts is or not. It seems like when you hear about it, it's on the PlayStation. Going on with Kingdom Hearts 2. This is again like a shiny Pokemon art, cover art, which is cool. And case and manual. I got this game for $11, so again, this is not something that's hard to find, interestingly enough. So yeah, if you really want to get into video game collecting, you should really definitely consider starting with the PlayStation 2. I mean, it's a good system to collect for. You can get a lot of games for it for pretty cheap, and good ones at that. Okay, so we're done with K. I have a couple games for the letter M. First one being Madden 2005. Big whoop. It's an EA sports game. Who cares? There it is. Madden 2005. Fear the D. Fear the D. Next one is March Madness 2002, another EA sports game. Again, who really cares? One thing I think that's kind of funny is that on the discs, the art on the disc is of like a render in game, character in game, but then they use like actual photographs of people on the manual and the cover. Next is Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty. Greatest hits. I have to make a commitment, and is that the right term? I don't know. And say I've never played a Metal Gear Solid game. Or a Metal Gear game. And I'm going to be totally honest with you. From somebody that looks on the outside, Hideo Kojima games seem to be very pretentious. And I'm sorry, I don't have any experiences with playing Hideo Kojima games. That's just what it looks like from the outside. Like, right here it says a Hideo Kojima game, and I think... Nobody else puts that on their art or title or whatever. That's just... I don't get it. Looking at Death Stranding, I'm like, wow, that does not look like a game for me. And there was that whole controversy of like Hideo Kojima said this, but he didn't actually say it about first-person shooter games when people were talking about Death Stranding, and he made a comment about the prevalence of first-person shooter games in the United States. And then people took it like out of context and made it sound like he said, well, people over there just like first person shooter games, and they don't have open mind. That's not what he meant. But this is also the only Metal Gear Solid game I have. I don't know if this is a good entry level game or not. This is not a hard game to come by at all. You can get this game pretty easily, too. We have 2 games left for the letter M, and again, they are sports games. MLB 06, The Show. This, just like Acclaim Sports and this game, this was back when sports games actually had competitors. Like there were multiple publishers and developers making sports games. Now we just have 2K and EA and sports games. I've never been a big fan of sports games, but sports games now really suck. And part of that is because you just don't have competitors anymore. That you have one publisher and one studio making basketball games. You have one making football games. You have one making football or soccer, and there's no competition at all anymore. Next, last one for M is EA Sports MVP 06 Baseball, NCAA Baseball. Gus is asleep. He's asleep. He's dreaming. Anyway, let me show you the case and manual for the manual and the game. I have not played any of these sports games. I have 2 games for the letter N, and they're both sports games, and they're both hockey games. NHL 2002. Interestingly, I have a note in here saying failed to verify, meaning that I couldn't get this game to dump, so I'm assuming that this disc doesn't work. Might be a little too scratched up. And then NHL 2K6. Interesting thing is that you saw EA Sports for that last one, so it must seem like the NHL licensed out to EA, and then they switched to 2K, which is kind of interesting, but again, these are sports games, so who really cares? Manual, disc. Moving on to the letter O. The only game I have in the O category is Over the Hedge. This is based on that animated movie that had, I'm pretty sure, Steve Carell in it, and other comedians, other voice actors in it. Case manual, have not played it, but it's your typical movie tie-in game. Moving on with P, again as in PP Potty, I have 3 of them, and they're all Prince of Persia games. So I'll start with Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time. I have not played a Prince of Persia game. Like I said in my NES video, I actually have not played most of the games in my collection. Again, Prince of Persia games are pretty easy to come by. They're pretty cheap. You can get them for about $5 each. Ubisoft. Next is Prince of Persia: The Two Thrones. Let me show you the manual and the disc. And then the last one is Warrior Within. I don't know for certain if these are the only 3 Prince of Persia games for the PlayStation 2, but they're the only ones that I've found. Here we go. Okay, moving on with R. I have quite a few R games, and that's because we have one of the series that really defined the PlayStation 2, and that is Ratchet and Clank. This is the greatest hits version, and I have some stickers I am still working on trying to get off. Yeah, I remember this series growing up quite a bit. Ratchet and Clank got the manual. I think there's more than just the manual. I think this is a poster or something. I don't know. Um, yeah, there's Ratchet and Clank. Ratchet and Clank going commando. There's shiny Pokemon card deal going on with the art. There's the manual. They have a censored out word on the back. I can't tell you for sure which Ratchet and Clank games I played growing up, but I did play them. So it's been a very long time though. And then Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal. These are not the only Ratchet and Clank games for the PlayStation 2. I want to say there's at least one or two more Ratchet and Clank games for the PlayStation 2. And then, of course, you had Ratchet and Clank come out recently on PlayStation 5, I think, like about a year ago. The next R game is Red Faction. This is a first-person shooter game. Now, one thing about Red Faction is that it is part of its marketing is destroying the environment, kind of like Battlefield, in real time. I have not played Red Faction. I'm pretty sure it is a sci-fi game that takes place on Mars. I could be wrong about that. But there is Red Faction. I don't know if this was meant to be another Halo killer, but you can see if a lot of the games I still have residue from stickers that I've been trying to get off. So yeah, again, please stop putting stickers on cases. And I can't show that any more than what's on this case. Red Faction 2. I have a big sticker problem right here. And it is a GameStop sticker. Fortunately, it wasn't put on the art. Sorry, I hit my microphone. There's Red Faction 2. Actually, I think I have not tried this disc because there's a little tiny crack around the inside of the disc, and I'm afraid to put it in because it might shatter, so I'm gonna have to find a different disc, but it's a cheap game, it's not hard to get. So next is Robots, and this is based on the movie, another movie tie-in game. It has Amanda Bynes in it. I really like the Game Boy Advance version, but I've played a little bit of this version of it, and it's a movie tie-in game. Okay. That does it for the letter R. So next is the letter S. First game for the letter S is Sean Palmer's Pro Snowboarder. Sean Palmer's Pro Snowboarder. This is, it kind of has like that same style that the Tony Hawk games have. So it's a part of that Activision Sports, Extreme Sports series. This is not a game I have played. There is the manual in the game. I've never really heard of Sean Palmer growing up. You know, I think Tony Hawk was the big one. Next is Shrek 2. One of the best animated films of all time. One of the best sequels to any movie. But we're not talking about the movie. We're talking about the game. I have not played it. I also don't have the manual for it. So I'll have to find the manual for it at some point. I don't know if this is I'm sure it's an adventure platformer, pretty much like every movie tie-in game at the time. Next is Shrek the Third, which I remember I never seen Shrek the Third. I remember this movie coming out a lot earlier than I actually remember. Like, this is like still a new movie to me, but the fact that it got a release on PlayStation 2 kind of tells me my memory's failing me. Like, this is not a new movie. This must be a pretty old movie, and now that I remember it, this movie came out in 2007. 2007 was very much the year of threes. You had Shrek the Third, you had Halo 3, just all sorts of 3 stuff going on. Fortunately, we did not get Half-Life 2 Episode 3 in 2007, but that's been talked about to death. Next S game is Ski and Shoot. Has a very bland spine. There's the disc and manual. I have not played this game. Okay, so the next S games are also very prevalent, very important to the PlayStation 2, and that is the Sly Cooper series. I have Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus. Don't shoot me, but I also have not played the Sly Cooper games, but I've heard that they are really good. I'm a big fan of Mirror's Edge, and I've heard that Sly Cooper can be kind of compared to Mirror's Edge. Maybe I'm just misremembering what people were saying, but yeah. Slide 2, Band of Thieves. This is Greatest Hits. The manuals look very similar. And then Sly 3, Honor Among Thieves. And I think that these are the only 3 Sly games, maybe ever. I don't think the series has gotten any reboot at all. Unfortunately, my copy of the manual looks like it was bitten by an animal, like chewed on by an animal, like a dog or a cat perhaps. So that's a little lame. There's also an insert in here. Let me get it out. Register all your games now. It's like a mail-in order thing. Well, I'm not going to register my games now because I'm sure that service doesn't exist anymore. Next, S, also very important PlayStation 2 games, and that is the Sam Raimi Spider-Man. This has Green Goblin. Let's open it up and show you. I've played a little bit of this game. I've played the tutorial, and the tutorial guy that talks to you, I don't know what to think about it. Yeah. I also have the Greatest Hits version. Is there a difference to it? No. It just is red and not black on the label. There's the manual and the disc. And then, of course, I have Spider-Man 2. And this is probably the most notable Spider-Man game to exist up until recent years. This is kind of an open world. This is really the definitive Spider-Man game. By the way, these games are by Activision when Activision used to publish good games. And I'm sure they've been assaulting women and minorities for their entire history, but that was before we knew about it. Next, for for the last few S games, I have Star Wars games. The first one is Star Wars Bounty Hunter. I have an EB game sticker here that I have not been able to get off. This it follows Jango Fett. I remember seeing like commercials for this game, and the commercials I remember being really good. I'm a big prequel fan. Of course, the prequel movies were the movies I grew up with. So, yeah, anything like Clone Wars era when I was growing up, I loved like the design of the clones. And speaking of which, it's not the next game, but Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, my favorite Star Wars movie of all time. I really love Kenobi, the series that's come out recently, because I just get to see my Star Wars people on the screen again. This is kind of a fighting game. So it's kind of a unique tie-in game in that sense, where a lot of tie-in games, movie tie-in games, were like 3D adventure platformers. This is really a fighting game. Revenge of the Sith. Now we're actually getting into the Clone Wars, and I remember playing this game, and this is I remember back in the day, like, getting this game, I think for the GameCube. I think this game also came out on the GameCube. I remember getting this game on the GameCube thinking it was Star Wars Battlefront 2, because I had played Star Wars Battlefront 2, but I didn't know the title of it at the time, I guess, and I remember getting this game and kind of being disappointed. But I'll have to give it another chance, because I've heard that this game is really good. And I just loved the Clone Wars era, back when the movies were coming out, especially Revenge of the Sith. I remember seeing like the clone troopers in different colored armor and being like, man, I would design my own clone troopers with like their own markings and colors and stuff. And then the Clone Wars, the 2008 show came out, which just like extended that, and that was just really cool. So yeah, I have two more Star Wars games. Speaking of the 2008 show, is Star Wars The Clone Wars Republic Heroes, which really shows you how long the PlayStation 2 lasted. Keep in mind the PlayStation 2 started with, it came out before Attack of the Clones, and then the PlayStation 2 lasted far beyond this, but lasted after, the Clone Wars 2008 show came out. So, I don't know, I don't really know that much about this game. I love the show. The show is really good, but it seems like I've heard mixed things about this game. I don't know for certain. The last S game, no, not even the last S game. The next S game, Star Wars game, is Star Wars Jedi Starfighter. I believe that this is kind of a sequel to just Starfighter. It says sneak peek at Star Wars Episode 2. So this game came right before Star Wars Episode 2, and it has Count Dooku, and then the Jedi, or that first Jedi Starfighter that we see in Episode 2, but not the one we see in Revenge of the Sith. Not the updated, more TIE Fighter looking one. Have the manual. There's a sticker that says mini hint book inside. I don't know if that hint book is still, it looks like the hint book is still in here. Yep. Here it is. Let me get it out. I have one hand because I'm holding the microphone. There's the hint book. Gus is no longer asleep, by the way. I don't think. He's been moving around. Next one is Star Wars Starfighter. This is based on episode 1 with the Naboo starfighter. That I always thought the Naboo starships were really cool. And I've played this game. I actually have played the PC port of this game quite a bit, and it's pretty good. You can get this game on Steam. I don't know about... I think you can get Republic Heroes on Steam as well. The good thing is that a lot of Star Wars games have been preserved and ported to PC and stuff, so... yeah. Okay, so that was the final S game. The next letter is the letter T. And the first game I have for the letter T is Tak and the Guardians of Gross. And I very vaguely remember this. This was a weird Nickelodeon IP because I feel like the show was based on the games instead of the games based on the show. And I think it was a series that was made to be a video game, but to also be marketed as a show. And then it just obviously did not last long, and I do not like the design of the character. Tak and the Guardians of Gross. I feel like this show was relevant after my time with Nickelodeon. There's a Play THQ manual in here. There's the regular manual for the game, which is like 3 pages long. And then there's a thicker manual that is like a catalog of THQ games, which is really funny. The next game is Tetris Worlds. I have the Game Boy Advance version of this game as well, and I really like Tetris, and Tetris Worlds is just a conglomerate of different Tetris game types, like sticky Tetris and that kind of stuff. Especially the Game Boy Advance version. It's funny because I didn't really talk about it, I don't think, but the backgrounds are like bowling alley screens. Like the backgrounds, especially in the Game Boy Advance version, they're weird. Okay, the next 4 T games, I'm just gonna blow through them because they're basically all the same. EA Sports Tiger Woods PGA Tour 2003. Tiger Woods was a huge sports icon during the early 2000s. Every dad wanted to be Tiger Woods. That was before the whole controversy with him and his whatever. I don't even remember what happened, but Tiger Woods 2004. Here's a good example of them using an actual photograph on the manual and doing the same pose, but it's a render from the game. Tiger Woods PGA. I have 2 copies of 2004. I did not know that. Okay, well, I have 2 2004s. This one looks a little bit more beaten up, so I might trade this in for something else. And then PGA Tour 08, considerably later in the PS2's lifespan. A whole 4 years after the last one. And this, I don't know if this is a reproduction manual or not. I don't think it is, but it's in black and white. So that's weird. The next 2 games are some more of the more definitive PlayStation 2 games, and that's Tony Hawk's Underground. I've played a lot of this game, as well as the Pro Skater series. I can't remember if it's Tony Hawk's Underground 2 or this one that has a very extensive character creator, and it's very, very probably both of them do. But it's very impressive, the character creator. You can spend a lot of time just messing around in the character creator with this game. Case and manual, and I remember watching the introduction where the ocean man drags the guy into the sewer, and I remember that freaking me out a lot. Tony Hawk's Underground 2, of course. Manual and the disc. Next is the letter V. I have one game, and it's Big Ideas, VeggieTales, Larry Boy, and the Bad Apple. I remember watching Vinny from Vinesaw streaming this game one day, and I'm like, but his stream was taken down, which was really stupid. And I don't think it's like he played it again, but the original stream is just kind of lost. I'm still trying to get some stickers off of this one. I've played this one, and this is for what it is, it's a decent adventure platforming game. And another thing is that I'm a big fan of VeggieTales. I love early 3D animation, and VeggieTales is early 3D animation, and VeggieTales is just a good, wholesome show. It is about God, but I think it's a show that anybody can enjoy, because the way it tells its stories and stuff, and the animation, especially the early days, is just really good. I just love early 3D animation. So that's really the reason I like Veggie. Next letter is W. I have one game, and it's Wallace and Gromit Project Zoo. I've not played this game, but I was also a really big fan of Wallace and Gromit growing up. I remember back during the days of Hollywood Video and Blockbuster, I would go and rent a Wallace and Gromit DVD all the time. Like, I would just renew it. And it was the one where they go to the moon because they think the moon is made out of cheese. And then Chicken Run was a thing. And the last game I have in the collection starts with an X, and it is X2 Wolverine's Revenge. I've not played this game, or this version of it. I played a lot of the Game Boy Advance version, and this is, of course, a tie-in to the movie, but from what I understand, this is actually more based on the comics. And that's the art style that they go for in this, which I applaud them, because it just makes their game stand out a bit more. So I was not able to get this game to dump, and I don't think it's because the disc is scratched. I just think the copy protection they put on it is just too good. So that actually, since that's the last game, I'm going to close it out soon, but that's a good segue into how I dump the ISOs. These are not ROMs, these are ISOs. Pretty much, ROMs are for cartridges, and ISOs are for discs. And, well, what do you dump PlayStation 2 games with? Your typical everyday USB disc, DVD disc writer and reader. You can get this at Walmart. It's this one I have is by LG. And you use a program on your computer. You can download it for free. It's freeware. It's called Image Burn, and you just create images from discs, and you have a working PlayStation 2 ISO. It also works with PlayStation 1. So the PlayStation 1 and the PlayStation 2 are absolutely the easiest systems to dump games for. So easy. Like I said, just go to Walmart, pick yourself up a DVD drive that can read, and you got yourself an ISO. You don't need to do anything with it special. It just works. It just works once the disk drive reads it all the way through. It'll also tell you if the disk is good or bad, because then if it's bad, then it won't be able to dump the game. It'll like keep retrying, and about after 20 retries, it'll say can't read disk. So that's how you know that the disk is bad, and you might need to get it resurfaced, or you might have to get it replaced. But yeah, if you're a PlayStation 2 collector, PlayStation 1 collector, and you haven't invested in a disk drive, do it. So that being said, that will wrap up the PlayStation 2 video. This is probably the most games I have for a system. I don't know how many games I have actually, but the next video I do might be Nintendo 64. I don't know. We'll just have to see. I might do Nintendo 64 and Super Nintendo at the same time, because my Super Nintendo collection is actually pretty small, and I'll explain why in that video. But thanks for watching. I don't know when I will stream again. I'm just really trying to really focus on my health right now, but part of the healing process, Gus is asleep again because his feet are going crazy and he's lying here. But I'll just close it out right now. Thanks for watching. This video has gone on pretty long, so I will see you in the next one. See you later.